In this segment, Stephanie Miller is joined by Dana Goldberg. Together, the two talk the latest from the Trump son for how he belittled, lied, cheated, slept around, all for his own power and ego.
What the New York Times does matters. What the Wall Street Journal does matters. What Jonathan Lemire does matters. What the Financial Times does matters. What NBC News and MSNBC reporters do matters. It matters.
Well, you know, I actually wanted to get your take. There's been so many of these pieces, so I want to get your take on this. This one by Max Burns. Democrats are checked out after their drubbing. Here's how they can re-engage. Because we know the media landscape is changing, obviously, you know. Yeah. So he writes, the media industry was always facing serious financial headwinds and corporate restructuring before Trump cruised to victory. Now executives of both legacy media outlets and social media companies are facing an unexpected aftershock from this year's nonstop campaign cycle. Call it the Great Democratic Checkout. Democrats are tuning away from news networks and social media platforms in numbers that are impossible to ignore. MSNBC and CNN saw their ratings slashed in half as exhausted Democrats tuned out post-election. On Twitter, lefty users have deserted the platform in droves in favor of Blue Sky. Print outlets are faring even worse, with furious Democrats still canceling their Washington Post subscriptions after they, spiked, obviously, endorsements of Kamala at some of these papers. 1 in 10 Washington Post subscribers have quit the paper since October. This raises an existential question for media outlets and for Democrats. Where will all those disillusioned eyes go? Decades of plans to build left-of-center alternatives to outlets like Fox have amounted to not very much. With the Democratic media landscape fractured and small, it's struggling to compete with well-funded outlets like Fox and even new media efforts like, Ben Shapiro. Yep. That's a worrying sign, Max writes, for 2026, and 2028. With investors, here's the part that's going to make Chris and my head explode simultaneously because it's in every article. With investors hesitant to fund left-wing media outlets since the failure of Air America.
Our old nemesis, Air America.
Would you like to review the fun facts about Air America? Even Air America executives who we know would tell you it was the worst business plan ever. Nobody in charge had ever done radio. Right. Nobody had ever programmed radio. They famously, Al Franken's producer made $750,000 a year. Al Franken made millions.
And they had a staff of writers.
Yes. Yeah. Progressive infrastructure could not support that business plan at that time when we were, just starting. Again, Ed Schultz and I were never Air America. But anyway, and not to say people were not wildly talented. Al Franken went on to be a great senator.
Absolutely.
I understand Rachel Maddow's done well for herself.
She has.
She's a fantastic television.
She was in our time slot, actually, and we kind of vanquished her.
We were the first show.
Yes.
They were the first show that got canceled.
Right.
Mark Maron obviously has a fantastic, successful podcast. But my point, Dana, is none of them had the very successful radio broadcasters like Randy Rhoads and Thom Hartmann are still doing it. Right. Ed Schultz continued to do it till he passed, obviously. But so anyway, it's those people. We've been doing it successfully for 20 years. So this is what kills me. Is this just that became in every story? Oh well, because Air America liberal radio doesn't work, And meanwhile,
but also what is the source for that story? I'm just curious what you're reading.
This
right
is
now.
Max Burns. I'm just reading, but
where's Max Burns at?
I don't know where this. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where this.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm not quizzing you on it. I just think it would be funny if it was from one like CNN or one of the ones that no one's watching anymore.
Right,
and my point is, you want to know where they're turning to? They're turning to public journalism. They're turning to the Stephanie Miller Show. They're turning to the
Daily Beans. Yeah.
They are turning to Under the Desk News on TikTok.
Bob Cesca Show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
So those are the places they're turning to. I still think they're informing themselves. I think they're just enchanted with mainstream media, but I don't think they're not educating themselves anymore.
I hate to be such a mercenary, damn it, but I could count. I have never gotten this much email that people are literally saying, you're the only thing I can listen to. I mean, and that's not because I'm so great. It's because of the Joe and Mika's and the people bending the knee and exhibiting cowardice. That's not what, or Democrat bashing, the circular firing squad. It's not what people want right now,
I think some people are going to hold fast to this, and I think other people are literally just taking a break. They may have canceled their subscriptions. They may come back. I have friends, dear friends, that have always been politically active, but they're like, I haven't watched the news since November 5th. I know I need to come back to it. I need to take my head out of the sand. But right now, it's okay to put your oxygen mask on and step away from the news for a little while. This is all going to continue to go on, whether you're watching it or not. So take a break, refuel, get ready to fight, and then come back.
So let me just finish up his take. He said Democratic audiences simply have no media outlets comparable to the constellation of conservative and even far-right channels popping up across the internet. That's in part because the billionaire investors now required to build and sustain those networks aren't keen to platform voices calling for higher taxes and more accountability for America's wealthiest magnates.
Right.
It might be something to that. Anyway, Democrats scared away from populism by Trump's own extremely successful demagoguery seem less inclined than ever to follow the public's lead. This should be a layup for a Democratic Party that has among its strengths messaging pros like AOC, who she just hit, I think, 1 million followers on Blue Sky. Anyway, he finishes, if Democrats want to persuade investors to back left-of-center media networks, they'll first need to show their support by financing those operations internally. That means redirecting the flood of DNC cash currently feeding Beltway consultant class and making real investments in media talent and with an emphasis on YouTube, podcasting instead of traditional talking head media. A strong bench of lefty influencers would do wonders for Democrats' ability to set the media agenda. Instead of scoffing at the right's success, it's time to draw lessons from booming conservative networks and ditch the stuffy scripted stump speeches. Democrats were once masters of the populist message. If they want to rebuild after last month's electoral disaster, they need to reconnect with that part of their political psyche fast. That's the point. The talented this lineup on SiriusXM Progress, it's fantastic. And by the way, funny. Dino Badala, John Fugelsang, you and Allison, funny. We're not doing talking points. Yes.
And this was written by Max
Burns. Max Burns.
And just got a text from our lovely, talented program director at SiriusXM, Sean Bertolo, that Max guest hosts on SiriusXM Progress.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
But yeah, this lineup on Free Speech TV, I'm just saying there are you and Allison. We were saying there are such strong, and you're right. The ones that are successful are great broadcasters that tend to be entertaining, smart, funny, whatever.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if for some reason I don't think they're going to get rid of TikTok, but there are TikTokers out there that people look to for the news that have millions and millions of followers. Those followers will go wherever they go. Give them something on media. What you need, though, is people that don't care about the bottom line as much as they care about our democracy. And that is harder to find right now. These people that are already uber rich, who could lose a little bit of money out of their pocket, who care more about putting our country first, that's what we need. And I don't know if they're out there.
And also, Dana, I guess, my point, this is why, and I've had Joe and Mika on the show, but the reason there's such backlash is because they're just modeling cowardice, and it's contagious. And I think, 100%. And the morning show is the anchor of your network. So in my opinion, there is a niche. There's a lot of great, progressives that don't bend the knee at MSNBC. My opinion is they need to replace the morning show. And I think you're right that people, when they rest up after the holidays and this real nightmare starts, will be back. But you got to have progressive warriors like you and Allison and the people that are, you guys are not by accident in the top 10. It's because you're entertaining.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Your news with swears.
We are news with swears. We see a lot of bad words, but we also make people laugh. When people write in, they tell us how nice it is for us to disseminate the information so it's digestible. But we also keep them sane through laughter. Both of us were stand-ups. I'm still performing a lot of the time. Allison's a great stand-up. And there's something about that equation that makes people okay and makes them tune in, because it's not like
Hal Sparks is doing a great
does
a great show every day. Bob Seska, I think, is
John
one of the best.
Fugelsang has a podcast in addition to his SiriusXM show.
So I can't.
And he's an incredible stand-up.
So I'm just saying, wealthy liberals, there are a lot of amazing progressive voices that a lot of people are tuning into. I mean, we've been number one everywhere we are. There is an audience. If you can, nobody wants to hear just the talking points on either side, but it is, I've said this a million times, but I can't tell you how many times people have said, if you went back to your Republican roots, you would have 500 stations tomorrow and be a multimillionaire.